A year after the screening of The Last Laugh, there was a big development at Fox, one that was even bigger than the arrival of F.W. Murnau at the studio.
Motion pictures became the dominant form of mass entertainment in the United States in the early 20th century.
There are about 80 million people going to the movies on a weekly basis.
Starting in 1920 with the first radio broadcast, there was a new mass medium on the scene that was even younger than motion pictures. And I'm sure the motion picture business were seeing radio as a rival and thinking, how can we co-opt radio?
Almost from the inception of the motion picture, Thomas Edison envisioned that the image would be coupled with a form of sound.
However, there were huge technological hurdles in the early days that prevented them from having sound with films, and these hurdles were synchronization and amplification. Once we go to the big picture palaces and deluxe theaters seating thousands of people, sound absolutely would have to be loud enough to be able to be heard by everybody.
In the early years of the 20th century, Dr. Lee DeForest invented the 3-filament tube. Now amplification was a reality. Meanwhile, in Auburn, New York, there was a young inventor from a very well-to-do family, Theodore Case.
Theodore Case became interested in sound film technology beginning around 1920.
And Theodore Case wanted to be an innovator in film. He always loved movies. He hired a young college graduate who was a brilliant scientist, Earl Sponable.
In 1922, he really starts working collaboratively with Lee DeForest, who keeps running into problems with his own sound film system.
They leased their system to Lee DeForest, who promptly, in 1923, presented that invention as DeForest phonofilms. And here's how the Lee DeForest phonofilms were made. The performers had a given restricted area where they could move. There was one microphone suspended from above to wires on pulleys that would be controlled by Sponable while the film was being shot.
The poor quality of the camera and the sound film technology was such a concern to Case that he and Sponable started working on their own system by really 1924. After Theodore Case and Lee DeForest go their separate ways in 1925, Theodore Case and Earl Sponable start shopping their technology around.
My brother-in-law, Jack Leo, said he would like to show me something in the projection room. Following that came a Chinaman who had a ukulele. He sang terribly, but to me it was a marvel.
Who's that coming down the street? Who's that looking so bit? Who's that coming?
There were two basic philosophies in the late 20s as to how to put sound into the movie theaters. One was to put it on phonograph records. That was the Vitaphone process.
Well, Vitaphone has a serious drawback in that it works on synchronizing a record to the film. Now, lining these two things up precisely is, let's call it an inexact science.
William Fox had a much better idea. Sound on film. It had to be synchronized because the sound was on a soundtrack on the same piece of film as the image.
William Fox had always been a maverick. He wasn't going to just go along with what everyone else was doing in Hollywood. He was going to have his own proprietary sound system, and it was going to be better than what anybody else had.
I got no more wind.
They said there was only one way to record sound, and that was in soundproof rooms. I said, that can't be so. I called for the inventor, Mr. Case, and said, I am going to give you $1 million, and you can spend this any way you like in experimenting how to make this camera photograph on the outside without a soundproof room. William Fox.
Now count 1, 2, 3, and you start. 1, 2, 3. There was a little girl that had a little curl right in the middle of her forehead. And when she was good, she was very, very good. And when she was hard, she was bad.
She was bad. Pretty good.
When Fox and Case joined together to form Fox Case Corporation, July 23, 1926, Case gives over ownership over all his patents to the Fox Case Corporation. He relinquishes his rights to those patents.
William Fox was collecting sound patents in the mid-1920s.
He bought up important sound patents from Tri-Ergon.
Following the Great War, 3 German experimenters using the name Tri-Ergon created a sound-on-film system.
These patents would seemingly lead him to a control of all sound filmmaking.
The silent movie lacks that something which lends life to action. And in this speaking, our movie tone picture, we just fill the quota and produce that something that will be the greatest success of the century.
When William Fox comes to bring his movie tone sound system to the public, he's a little bit behind Warner Brothers.
The debut of Vitaphone came on August 6, 1926 at Warner's Theater on 52nd Street and Broadway. And it was Don Juan, starring John Barrymore, accompanied by no less than the New York Philharmonic, one of the great orchestras of the world.